Good afternoon, Crofters. It's Gil here with Tanglewood Croft. Well, I got to tell you, it's a hot one here on the homestead. It's supposed to be hot for the next several days. It makes it hard to want to get out and do much of anything. But there are a few chores that need to be done. I was a little unable to get to it this morning. I wanted to do this morning while it was cool, but I'll show you what I'm about to do. We're actually going to try to do a couple of things with this video. Show you one of the little periodic chores that I have to do here on the homestead. I've shown you before the cistern we have that holds water, and it tends to gather silt every time we have a rain event. Our spring water gets a little muddy, and that collects at the bottom of the cistern, and that means I have to clean it out occasionally. Another thing I would kind of like to do is, one of the things that I get curious about on some of these YouTube channels that we watch, the homesteaders and any of them for that matter, some of them are self-explanatory, but I always wonder, about the names. Like I said, some of them are okay, others I'm never quite sure what the name is, where it comes from. Sorry, I was adjusting my tripod a little bit there. I'm using my big one to do this. So I thought what I would do is, while I'm waiting for the cistern to drain, and I'm about to pull the plugs on it, so it will. I've already got the pump turned off. I thought I would explain to you a little bit, along with, I guess, what you'd call visual aids, of how we come upon the name Tanglewood Croft. And I will show you why I've got to clean out the cistern. I will pull the plugs, and then we'll take a little walk. Not sure how this will show up. You can see that white thing there. There's one on each end. I'm not sure what this cistern was originally for, but those are holes in the bottom of it. This is basically a concrete box. And right up there in the end is the submersible pump, and that's how we get the water into the house. We really need a filter on the house itself. That was never done, and that's something we're still in the process of trying to figure out just how to do. But you can see all the silt. That white thing there, I don't know if you can see it through the reflections. There it is. Those are basically bathtub plugs, and they're just the right size for these holes. So what I'm going to do, pull the plugs and let this start draining, and then while it's doing that, we'll take our little walk and talk. And just for those who haven't maybe seen it yet, we get spring water through this pipe. See it running here. This is something that periodically I have to go fix. It gets stopped up this time of year. Sometimes we get crawdads in the line, and I have to stop that up, or deer will step on it and pull it apart at the splices. It's made up of several 300-foot rolls of this black plastic. Give you a little bit of an explanation, just for a little background. And I hope you don't mind if I don't look at you much, because I'm walking and I'm pretty clumsy. And the last thing you need to do is see me tripping. I grew up loving to read science fiction and fantasy, and especially fantasy. I took a break from it for a while a few years back, because I'd spent, 40 years reading fantasy. At one point, I had gotten the idea. I started learning about things like Photoshop, making up a fantasy land, taking photographs of the Ozarks, because I always thought the Ozarks was a little bit like Tolkien with his English countryside. And I always thought that, the Ozarks would make a great location for a fantasy because of the hills and all the hidden hollers and all that. So one of the things that I thought about doing was doing up a book, take photographs, use Photoshop to import like castle ruins, things like that, and make up a map, and just do a whole book like it's a travelogue that was made up by somebody of a fantasy land with all these different places in it. And I thought that was kind of a neat idea. I've never gotten super skilled with Photoshop, and I'm still, all these years later, I'm kind of learning world building as far as fantasy and stuff, because I am a writer. But one of the places that I had taking pictures of was this section I'm walking through, you can see here. And because it was so tangled, I came up with the name Tanglewood for it. And that's where it stayed for a long time. And my wife and I decided that we wanted to have a homestead, and we were going to put it on here. We were mulling over a name. I suggested Tanglewood Farm, but we got to talking about it, and we wanted to do something besides just farm. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but we just wanted to do something that would stand out. We got to searching, and there's an old word called Croft that is the name. It's an old English name. Croft is a farm worked by someone who doesn't own the land. And for us, that was a twofold meaning, because right now on paper we don't own this land. My mom still owns it, though I do stand to inherit it. But on the other hand, we feel like even if we reach the point, and I hope it's a long ways off, where we do own the land on paper, we still don't feel like we own it literally. It's a little bit like the Native Americans think of it, where we're the stewards, we're the caretakers of it. I really understand the Native American outlook, which is, how can you own the land? It's like saying you own the sky. I'm not trying to get into some huge political discussion here about ownership of land and who owns it and who doesn't. I'm just saying this is how we feel. This is how the name came about. And so we ended up with Tanglewood Croft. Stay tuned, we're going to have a website coming hopefully soon. We're still working on it. So anyway, that's a little explanation of why we are Tanglewood Croft, why we picked the name we picked. Hope you enjoyed that a little bit. Hope you enjoyed the scenery. And I will, as soon as the cistern's drained, then we will get to showing you a little bit of me cleaning it. I basically just use the water flowing through that pipe, scoop a lot of that silt out with a shovel, flat tip shovel, and get it all cleaned out and fill it back up with water. It's not a big thing. I wanted to show you guys this. This is something we're a little proud of. We have a broody duck. She's staying on this nest pretty constant. So we hope she's going to bring us some little ducklings. And about the same time frame as the ones we have in the incubator right now. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure my editor will put a note in for me just how long it'll be for the ones in the incubator hatch. And I think she's just a few days behind that. Yep, there you have it, folks. Cleaned up for another few months. I've got the plugs in it. I can never get it perfect. Not as near as good as I'd like it. But that's one of the downsides, so to speak, challenges. Not sure what you'd call it, of living out in the country. So I'm going to let it fill now. I'm going to let it fill now for a little while before I turn the pump back on. So till next time, folks, don't forget to like this video. Go down there and subscribe to the channel. And we will see you in the next video.